Good evening, everyone. It's just coming up to 6:30, so I'd like to call to order this evening's special Parks, Trails, and Recreation Committee meeting. And I'd like to acknowledge with respect that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen speaking people, and we're honored to have the opportunity to build strong working relationships with the people of the Songhees and Xwsepsum nations, whose historical relationship with the lands continue to this day. Can I please get a motion that the agenda of the Special Parks, Trail, and Recreation Committee meeting of August 7th, 2024 be adopted as presented? Judy? Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Can I please get a motion that the minutes of the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Committee meeting held June 3rd, 2024 be adopted as presented? Kimberly? Any discussion? Any changes or updates or no? All in favor? Okay. And public participation. I'd now like to open it up for members of the public to have an opportunity to address the committee with any concerns or questions you might have. If there's anyone that would like to speak now or would like to wait to speak before an item on the agenda, just let me know. So if anyone in the audience would like to speak, please come up to the podium.
Thank you, Mike Wignall, Westford Consulting. I'd like to speak at our rezoning consideration at 517 Latoria. There was some procedural issues during the last council meeting, and I was unable to make my presentation because of procedure. I completely understand. I just want to ensure that this time, either now or later, I can make my presentation. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, you will. Yeah. Anyone else like to come up? Yeah, for sure. Is anybody else?
I would like to speak next time as well.
Okay, 2. Last call, anybody else?
I may want to speak. I'll try to speak.
Okay, no problem. All right. First up is the delegation, Juan Fuca Soccer Association. Welcome, just come on up.
Perfect. So first off, thank you so much for having us tonight. I'd just like to introduce myself. My name is Odorico. I'm the technical director of Juan Fuca. We've got.
I'm Angus Stewart from Juan Fuca Soccer. I'm the director of coach and player development, and I've been with the club since I was 4, I think. So.
I'm Clout, executive director of Virginia Soccer.
Perfect. So today, kind of what we're here to talk to everybody about is our call for not having enough field space for our Colwood residents here in our club. So what we're going to go through today is just kind of about who we are, the summary of what we're here to talk about, the background of the club, our registration, and to actually show the real numbers of what JDF soccer is, our overview of our programs, the current venues we use between here and Langford, our community involvements, what we have done in the past, and then just a quick conclusion at the end. The timer didn't go. But there we go. So what we are a nonprofit club that provides soccer to athletes from 4 years old. I think our oldest athlete might be about 72 years old, and they're and far between. We have this in Canada Soccer. They have this reform going on right now, and then we've got the license of a quality soccer provider, which basically means we hold a certain level of governance licensing, a certain level of technical licensing, a certain level of administrative licensing to be able to give our members the best, I guess, service possible. What we're here for today is exactly what I opened with, is trying to get more field usage in the city of Colwood. We are kind of stuck right now. We're going into September, and the 3 of us are trying to figure out where we're going to put our kids on the fields, and it's very, very tough to do that. We're looking at sometimes like 144 kids on one soccer field at a time, which is, for anyone that's seen soccer, usually it's about 22 players at a time. So this is kind of what we're here for today, and just showing to everyone and explain to everyone where JDF soccer used to be 9 years ago to where this club is today and where it's going to grow to the future. So a bit of background. We've met with Mayor Kobayashi back in 2023. We had a good discussion with City Council specifically about Corey Park, about the new developments of the green areas there. I believe, don't quote me, that we've talked about potentially one turf field going in that area there, potentially a second one with a building. And we're just here to kind of plead our case to really push forward towards that building and that second turf field. And yeah, there's been lots of talk back and forth. You guys have read that there. So where we were and where we're going. So as you can see, during COVID, about 1,300 members. Last year, 3,655 members. Massive amount of players within our club. And as you can see there, like 48% of our membership are Colwood residents. And the way we kind of did that is we looked through their postal code to see where they're residing. So a huge amount of residents from the city that are playing in their club currently. And again, those are from ages 4 all the way to adults. And then the other programs, I'll show you the descriptions, what we mean by the other programs. So this is just a breakdown of what we offer. U4 to U6, super fun. Timbit style stuff. Kids show up, parents show up, run around, chaos, fantastic. U7 to 10, a little bit more structured soccer. That's where someone like myself starts getting involved, start teaching coaches how to coach, and just introducing soccer to kids. U11 to U13, now we actually go into intercity competition. So that'll be JDF against Gord, against Saanich, against Oak Bay. And those are the clubs that we'll be playing against. Cowichan as well. Souk is in there. And then U14 to U18, this is more for full field soccer. This one I was talking about the 22 players on a field, ideally when we're playing games. And this is very important age group as well, because as lots of people know, at the age of U14, there's a significant drop off for teens from organized sports. And we don't want one of those constraints to be lack of field space for not giving them that opportunity to play. And then we have our adult program. So that's when it hits the age of 19 and older, being able to participate in the Soccer for Life program. We have programs that are recreational, drop-in, all the way to competitive teams. We have a women's team that actually competes at the highest level of soccer on the mainland here, or sorry, the island. So our current venue usage. So our main staple is West Shorts Park and Rec, School District 2 with Royal Bay Turf and Grass and the Study Center Park. So that's Starlight and Gowdy. Right now, this is actually last year's numbers, but this year we hit about $350,000 of fees just paying for field rentals. And that's a significant amount of our budget, probably I'd say just over 35% of our overall budget that we spend on just field rentals. Not that it's a huge issue, it just gets passed on to our residents with the fees that we charge. Our community involvement. So we've helped out with a bunch of stuff with the development of the Royal Bay School when it was built. We were at the table to talk about how it was going to get built. West Shore Parks and Rec was there with the support. And we supported financially the some parts of the fields. That includes the nets, the benches, all the extra stuff. And then for the lighting costs as well, we've fully paid for the lights. So not only if we're not using them, we paid for the lights to go up. So that was kind of our community involvement from the club back to the community, just, to make sure that we're not just taking, we're giving back to the infrastructure that's happening in Colwood and Langford. So in conclusion, we feel that, the current supply of surfaces is like, I can't stress this enough, we're tapped. We don't know where we're going to put these kids. We're starting in 2 to 3 weeks. I'm not saying it has to be done tomorrow, but a long-term plan needs to happen because we're just stuck right now. We're banging our heads against the wall, what we're going to be doing with, 3,200 members starting in 3 weeks. So that's it's a bit of a stress for us, and I'm young and I've got gray hair. But that's kind of what we're here to talk about. If you need more info, you can check out our website. There's a lot of info out on that as well. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing to our attention the pressing issue of capacity constraints in the West Shore, as well as your passion for the sport. I think we hear about this quite often with different sports groups, for sure. Does anybody have any questions you want to ask the delegation?
Hi, I did check out your website, which was very good, and thank you for your presentation and for that. I was just curious because on your website, it lists a lot more fields than what you listed in your presentation in terms of fields that are, and I understand you want the turf as opposed to the grass, but from what I could see, it looked like there were 7 turf fields, 5 grass fields at West Shore Rec, and then 2 school grass fields. And I'm just wondering, is that accurate, or is your presentation?
It's competing with other groups for usage of those fields. So just because we use them, just because we use them doesn't mean we have full access to them. So we'll put in a request with whoever the renter is or the vendor is to use the field, and they'll give us access a certain number of days, certain number of hours, but they try and split that with other groups to balance it out. So those fields are all fields that we use, but we don't have complete access to them. We may get limited rental time each week.
Okay. Yeah, and so I was just curious, you've got 2 schools that you use, I think John Stubbs and Royal Bay. And just wondering what's the holdup with some of the other schools and their fields, and using those fields as well.
So specifically some of the elementary schools, I know when I was playing, we played on those elementary schools. They are not fit for like organized sport. The fields, they don't have the right nets. They don't have field maintenance. There's sometimes you go there and kids have built dirt castles in the middle of them, and it's just not safe, which is why we started pulling people off of those fields. Even John Stubbs is a difficult one to use. It also, they get closed a lot, and lots of times it's last minute. So you end up losing a lot of your season based on and trying to use those fields, which are really not designed and drained well enough to really use much of the winter when our main programs are running. Some of the other schools like CML, we have limited space. We have limited access to that just because of pressure from other areas. Some of the View Royal and Saanich districts or their soccer clubs are actually also looking for field space. So they start coming out and taking some of the field space away, which means that we're basically fighting not just other sports in our area, but also other districts really. So
The other thing with the grass fields is they're not lit. So our practices are in the evenings. Our main season, September to March, it's dark. We can't use them. We can use them on the weekends for games. We can't use them for practices during the week.
Okay.
just to give you kind of an idea too on those field rentals so there was someone did the kind of a study and a comparison. So for a JDF, this is going back a couple of years ago, but per registration, we spend about $158 per registration. And some of the other clubs are down to like $8. So, I mean, that's Saanich where they've given their field rentals. But that's kind of the comparison where at JDF, we're just we rent everything. So it would be great for us to be able to put some money into something and have it help with our rental costs.
Okay. Yeah, and the other thing is, I mean, just wondering so for as many, and this might be hard to figure, but as many participants as you have and practices and everything, what would you think would be your ideal number of fields to be able to have?
That's the answer, because we're growing every year, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of our programming is condensed into the smaller space just so that we can get everyone on field. So if we had more space, we could spread that out. It's tough to answer.
Yeah, and your thoughts on sharing fields in Quarry Park, because we do have other groups that are
Yep.
interested, have come to us, and are, obviously there's other sports, lacrosse, everything that, everybody wants their own dedicated field, their own dedicated clubhouse space. And obviously we're not gonna be able to do that for every sport. So just wondering your thoughts on sharing.
Like in the past, we've had lots of conversations with like clubs like Triangle Baseball, and some of that stuff works really well. Our main time is through the winter, and lots of that is actually expanding lots and lots of times now. Each sport is almost year round. Baseball is starting to be year round. Soccer is definitely year round now. So we would absolutely be open to that, and we've talked with Triangle about trying to get together and pool some resources, and certainly if you look around all the different places there are, and really anywhere, the mainland and the States and everything, there's lots of multi-use facilities that work really well. I think we would hope that we would have at least some space where we can say, okay, this is a JDF soccer area, clubhouse, and a field that we can count on being there. But certainly we also know that there's that pressure from other areas, and really we should have all of the clubs pushing for more recreation space for all of the teams. So we're definitely not saying that we should be taking all of the resources to build soccer, but soccer really is the largest sport there is on the island. So that just the sheer numbers of the participants in our sport just means that we have really high pressure.
One of the things that has been missing from my perspective from some of the other groups that have come up is bringing something to the table similar to what you guys did with the lights at Royal Bay. And I'm curious if there's something that you have been talking about that you're planning to bring to the table if there was at least a field available to create a partnership with.
Yeah, I think that's not just Royal Bay, it's got a history of it. Like the JDF soccer was involved in the installation of lights at the Western Parks and Rec way back when I was really young. That also was done by that volunteer board at the time, putting the lights in and purchasing those lights and putting them up, and they're still standing today. So the Royal Bay piece was also like, you just can't put a turf field in and not put lights. Like it doesn't make sense for a community. So that was a no-brainer. And so like we do have money that has been put aside in little bits, and we, originally that money was put aside to build a clubhouse and an anchor space, and then it was like, okay, no, that money has to come out and go into lights, and then that's been slowly built back up. And with the goal of, I know through the gaming grants, and I might not be exactly right with the numbers, but I know last time we talked about this, up to $250,000 gaming will match your capital investment. And so we've sort of been watching that money and trying to hit that 250. So if there was an opportunity to come along, we would have that money. And so we do have that money that is there for that capital investment. And we're almost, I mean, nothing is for sure, but the way the literature reads and everything, that gaming grant money should be able to come back for capital. They will match it. We do that. We always get like some gaming grants. So that's been part of it. So that if there was a project that really worked, then we would be, that's for sure what that money is for.
I just had a question about your equipment. Where is that housed?
So the
Everybody's
housing,
houses?
yeah, everything. So we rent space. The right now it's under the old Rugby Canada building, the PFC building in Langford, and we rent a space. I know what this is, again, going way back. We've always had to rent the space. There used to be a space under the bleachers at the hockey rink and at Western Parks and Rec that was like a little cave that the uniforms and everything used to go in, and that's just kind of we outgrew that, and now we I think we have 3 lockers that we rent out of that down at under the PFC office.
And Steve's basement and Steve's
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, did you? No. Okay, I think like, I see other municipalities kind of have their things, like Langford has, fields for certain programs and that sort of thing. And, Colwood doesn't really have a sport I don't know. So I crafted a motion and the help of these ladies over here. And I just, I'll see if you guys are agreeable to it, but I'd like to put forward this motion that the city of Colwood explore a possible partnership with Juan Fuca Soccer Association, there it is, to create a joint use facility to be used as a clubhouse with soccer programming at Quarry Park located in Royal Bay. There you go. Oh, yeah. You want to speak?
Yeah. I'm just wondering if Quarry Park is the only possible location. Because when I was, out and about, it looked like some area behind Allendale is very flat. It's also very central to other parts of Colwood. We've already got the soccer fields at Royal Bay Secondary down in Royal Bay. Would there be putting something in Allendale as a possibility?
I think there's always a possibility for that, but I don't think we can direct a developer to build soccer fields. And in that area, to me, is already looking quite industrial. There's always a possibility to put them wherever, but I believe that Royal Bay is building them, at least one or two right now. So that's why I'm directing it to that location, and just to give the soccer group a home, so they don't have to lug their equipment around everywhere. They have a place for programming. And maybe that could look like something more like a multi-use building with our community building that hopefully we could build one day, multi-use for other purposes. I don't know.
Just a question on that. The motion suggests a clubhouse as opposed to a field. And I understood that what you're actually looking for is probably both things, but more training space. And I'm not sure this motion addresses that.
So part of what this, unfortunately, Kevin Allen, our president, was the one who have started the conversations with you guys. And he's actually just away. So the three of us are trying to step in for him. So part of that discussion around the Quarry project when it originally started, and certainly going way back, that clubhouse is one of those things. Like right now, we thankfully have a donor that donates their boardroom. It may or may not be here as a donation for very long. I don't know. We've always typically just rented that space. So we run classroom sessions for coaching and coach education. We run, team building things in places, and all of those things require rental spaces. So then we go and rent those spaces. So the clubhouse is a big part of most of the soccer community. And if you go into any of the other clubs, they have a clubhouse, all the trophies, all the stuff there. It's like kind of an anchoring location. It also is attached to a field. So those things, coach education, all that sort of stuff. There's classroom portions. You move outside into the field portion. That you can see that sort of that model in Blue Heron Park, where they've had the clubhouse and a concession and all that sort of stuff there, with the turf fields right there beside it. Les Ritz has that. Tyndall has it. There's a lot. Hampton has a really great one. It's just a model that works really well for sports clubs. The storage and all that sort of stuff, it'd be great if we could have that under that clubhouse, elevating the clubhouse up. We were 100% open, and one of the things that we had talked about originally to try to get this project going is the clubhouses in a lot of those places sit empty all day long. So if we could find a place, whether it's a daycare or something else, that uses that space during the day as a multi-use, but it wouldn't be using it at night. We don't use it during the day. There is, other than we do have the 2 paid employees that work out of their houses. Eventually, if there was a little corner of that space that had office space, awesome. But right now, they work out of their houses. So other than that, everybody else is a volunteer that only comes out in evenings and weekends. So really, if we could use a joint use facility, that would be ideally would create the best environment. There's also other things around that. Right now we are running a Highlanders women's program at BC League One. Currently, that's the highest level of soccer in Canada for women. And it would be great if we were able to put some bleachers on the side of that and support and actually have events. The other thing, to your point about the other areas, one of the reasons why we were so happy about Corey Park is that right across the road from it is Royal Bay. So that's 4 fields in one location within walking distance. You know, you could potentially have things like provincial championships where you have 4 fields in one area and actually bring the rest of the province here instead of constantly sending island teams across the ferries to compete in everything else. So that, you know, all of those things that where we're looking at trying to support the higher levels of soccer and also bring, you know, the province here versus us fundraising and sending teams across.
I think what Catherine might have been mentioning was like the fact that this motion kind of seems like it's just about the clubhouse, and maybe it needs to say something like in conjunction with the use of the turf fields. Yeah, that just.
Yeah, the
add
fields
that
are our
in.
biggest thing, really. And if we can get a clubhouse too, that would be fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Do I have a seconder on that motion? I should have asked. What? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, when you say turf fields, you're talking about artificial turf, not grass.
We'd be hoping for a turf field. Yeah, they don't close unless it's frosty and snowy. And just being able to guarantee that that space is open is just, it's really, really important.
I'd like to see more discussion about the use of turf as opposed to grass. So if we can just take out fields, take out and the discussion could carry on.
Yeah, I think the reason I put it in is because I think that's already that's already going forward, is it not? That they're building, Gablecraft is building a turf field, at least one. So that's why yeah. And I know from experience that soccer fields are generally closed more often than not when they're not turf, unfortunately.
That's yeah, just on that point there. So I'm from Montreal. I moved here about a year ago, and this is my first winter here on the island. Winter, big brackets, not really much of a winter, but we had stuff that was going on the grass fields, and every single time when we checked in, either with the city of Langford, city of Colwood, it was like close, and all these kids, like we're talking about a 4-year-old that's getting denied space to go play soccer, just because, you know, there's a drizzle outside and the city doesn't want their field to get wrecked. So that's why the turf is very, very important. We've actually decided to rent indoor space for these little kiddos this winter, just to make sure that they're not going to be rained out. And like, I think last year they got rained out close to like 10 times, and that's 10 weeks of, I think, 22 weeks of programming. So that's almost half the time that they got rained out last year, which is really unfortunate. And that's why turf is so important for these kids and for everyone to play on.
Yeah, from my own experience with my son, we actually got moved after 4 or 5 weeks of closures at JDF down to Royal Bay when the club convinced one of the older girls teams to share the field with my kids U5 Timba team, which was interesting. So the turf has its benefits with being able to stay open. It obviously has its negatives as well, which we had discussed a lot when we were talking to Gablecraft about what they were going to do with that space. And I just wanted to confirm that from the last meeting with Gablecraft, they're definitely installing one turf field, and then they still weren't sure what they were going to do with the second space yet. So that's still up in the air.
Okay, so, and I don't need a seconder, I just need to see if everybody is sorry, I guess I just need to see if everybody's in favor of that motion. Three. Kimberly is not. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, and new business. I guess we have people that would like to speak first. This is the 6.1, the rezoning for 517 Latoria.
Good evening, councillors, committee members, and members of the public. My name is Chris Drops, and we've lived on Byzantin Way since June of 2017. I would like to remind everyone in this room that we wouldn't be here tonight if the developers fulfilled the conditions of original Section 219 covenant, which is still in effect and on the title of every property in phase 1. Item number 6 from that covenant says Schedule A, the covenantor has obtained an approval of Colwood to a park and trail development plan of the lands and has constructed, that's past tense, to the satisfaction of Colwood, all park and trail facilities provided for in approved plan and dedicated such parks and trails to Colwood or at Colwood's option granted Colwood statutory rights of way in respect of such parks and trails. This never happened. The city and the developers let the residents of phase 1 down. It's not the residents' fault. The developers didn't do their due diligence on the phase 2 site to find out a large portion could not be developed. Why was this not done on the onset? Instead of building the current homes that are located at 533 and 537 Elevation Point Terrace in 2023, which is actually part of phase 2, developers could have provided a nice green space to be enjoyed by residents of phase 1 and 2. This would have been a sign of good faith, and most likely the residents would be more agreeable to the current development. The developer's offer of option 1 is deceptive. Option 2 is extremely insulting. Both are unacceptable. The recommendation from city staff to choose option 2 is extremely disappointing and shows that the staff are completely out of touch with the needs of the community. We deserve better. The new residents of phase 2 deserve better. I urge you to suggest an option that is meaningful and that will bring the residents of phase 1 and 2 together and that all residents of Colwood can enjoy and be proud of. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Hi, Steve Mandy, 498 Byzantin Way. Our home was also built in phase 1, and we were led to believe that the development would include phase 1, 32 homes, phase 2, 27 homes, of which 2 have already been built under the covenant of 219. I also support everything that Chris Tops has said, also the email that Karen Woodlawn has sent in. Current concerns. The development is now requesting rezoning to the amendment of 44 townhomes, 1 single duplex, total of 46 residents. Again, 2 have already been built. Proposed design seems to maximize density and meet only minimal standards offered by the amenities. The green space having gone from total green space park, the combined size is 8,350 square meters. That's approximately the size of 1.5 football fields, down to 67 square meters, which is about the current size of my driveway. And as a top park, what's been recommended, and it's on a 45-degree slope, which will require some blasting to make it level. The density of these 44 units on the site appears excessive and inconsistent with the established neighborhood and character and aesthetics of this neighborhood. The impact on the community and quality of life will adversely affect all residents within phase 1, security and traffic speed. Lack of public amenities, being the green spaces. I feel that possibly there should be something like a platform or an outlook, something similar to what's on Citadel at the moment. Am I allowed back up for a second go?
Yep, we just have
Perfect.
everybody else speak. Not coming? Okay.
I'm back. The walkability score for our neighborhood is 27 out of 100, which is pretty poor. The connecting Olympic Trail system behind this development may not be utilized effectively compared to the single-family homes with better trail access, like Old Royal Bay and New Royal Bay. They've got great walkability in their area. So perhaps connecting Coleman Street to this new development via a trail and single-family homes would enhance the community. The community has voiced significant concerns regarding the proposed density and design. This is evident by the emails, documents, and people speaking at these public council meetings. Although some progress has been made in the reduction from 48 to 44 townhomes, many issues remain unaddressed. We urge that the committee reconsider the rezoning request. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Is it on now? David Kang, 530 Elevation Point Terrace. In addition to what my neighbors have said up to this point, which I wholly agree with, the current covenants actually allow for trail access to the future developed Olympic View Trail as well. Not only that, can I just give you a very brief history of what's transpired up to this point? When we had our community engagement meeting with the developer, initially it was said that there would be no green space up there with regard to parks or playground or any such sorts. If you look at the current map right now, there's 3 different areas where there's parkland. There's 2 that are much bigger than family-sized lots for single-family homes. And then now that the Madrona Creek area is protected, we cannot access that, so that's fine. The other thing is when we met with them, and we were told that there was going to be no green space, that it'd be adequate that the children in our neighborhood could access the new school that was going in. And of course, that's across Latoria Road, and it's very difficult to access for public safety reasons. Now that we've come to this stage, we have 2 parcels of land, one 9 by 7 meters, one 10 by 15 meters, which is grossly undersized compared to the 8,350 square meters that we were allotted under the current covenant, which has not changed. It's actually their current covenant in the zoning and the bylaws. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you. I guess it's you, Gord. You're up.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the committee to come out to a special meeting on your summer holidays. So I don't have a presentation, staff doesn't have a presentation, and I know that the developer does. But what I will do is I will I'll read out the recommendations and allow the developer and answer any questions and allow the developer to make their presentation and answer their questions. So the recommendations, the Parks, Recreation and Trail Committee recommend to council that a playground be provided within the property of 517 Latoria Road as per the existing agreement. That council, or that the committee recommend to council to include within the amendments to the CD8 zone a requirement to protect 15,000 square meters of land, the 517 Latoria through the section 219 natural state covenant in exchange for not requiring the 8,500 meters squared. So that would be, this is what the developer has included within their rezoning application, is to add or almost double the 8,500 meters squared of protected land. That a trail be provided at the southeast area of 517 Latoria for future neighborhood connection to Olympic View. And in exchange for not providing the trail through Madrona Creek, staff understand that would be a very difficult trail, as well as that trail would end within a gated community as well. So it really doesn't tick the box for a beach to mountain. That a trail be provided connecting Latoria Creek to the already existing pondside trail. And then that would be able to provide the beach to mountain trail through trail access and sidewalk, as well as connecting the new Quarry Park area through Latoria Creek. And further that the committee directs staff to include the above mentioned requirements for a playground and trail connection within the long-term condition of rezoning for 517 Latoria, which shall not be registered in, which shall be registered in a 219 covenant development agreement prior to the adoption of and amending of the bylaw number 227. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have at this point.
Any questions?
Ask,
Yeah, go ahead.
ask questions after the developer has presented?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll let the developer take over.
You want to start? There we go. Perfect. Thank you. My name is Mike Wignall with Westbrook Consulting Limited. I'm here tonight on behalf of 420393 BC Limited. We like to refer to them as Chuck and John. This is a really tricky situation that we're in. We have a project that started out years and years ago, and what the planning department and the parks department have sort of evolved into over time is we're a lot more environmentally aware and sensitive. And so that things that seemed obvious and easy to do in 2017 are no longer things that we're really in favor of today as a society. But what the problem here really is tonight is we're running into the conflict between the existing neighborhood and the existing neighborhood expectations and what they had in mind when they moved in to what we're being told and are following with the way society has evolved since, that we're protecting environmentally sensitive areas that, you know, arguably we should have looked at that 10, 20, 30 years ago, but we didn't. So here we are now. So that's, I think, the basis, the nub of the issue right now. Anyways, I'm here tonight not so much to talk about land use, but to talk about the parks and trail aspects for the proposed zoning amendment for 517 Latoria. The current proposal represents a long-awaited, hopefully final chapter in a project that the owners purchased in 1998. I'm sure they never anticipated that a final build-out time of over 25 years, but with market conditions, COVID, evolving planning requirements, and other issues, here we are. The intention now is to develop the area that was left cleared and left as a rock stockpile area for 7 years now to finish the project. In essence, the rezoning is an amendment that would allow attached housing, either in clusters of 3 or more, or in duplex units on the undeveloped portion of the site only. There's one single family lot proposed adjacent to 3642 Ridgeview Terrace. The rules for this lot will be exactly the same as for every other lot in the first phase of the project. A single family dwelling with allowance for a suite. Now, is that going to work? Here we go. The site is located immediately south of Elevation Point Terrace, is shown in yellow in this slide. You can also see Latoria Road to the north, Veterans Memorial Parkway to the northwest, and the Royal Bay development to the east. This is a zoomed in version of the location plan. Originally, the entire site fronted on Latoria Road, hence the address of 517 Latoria. As the first phase was developed, the remaining undeveloped piece is still referred to as 517 Latoria Road, even though it no longer directly fronts Latoria. As I say, the ownership group has owned the property since 1998. Phase 1 of the project was built about 7 years ago and was sold in several sub-phases as the market evolved. Phase 2 is shown in the plan there, has been in development since 2017. In the intervening years, we have been working with the ownership group, the City of Colwood staff, as well as the project arborist, biologist, and landscape architect to develop the current proposal. We've also enlisted the help of a traffic consultant and a sharp-tailed snake specialist. In 2021, after trying various single-family layout options, Colwood staff of the day suggested we look at a townhouse option, as it was thought that it would be more in keeping with the principles of site adaptive planning, and that we could concentrate the density in the already disturbed area and save the area that wasn't disturbed. We have hosted 2 community meetings earlier this year at Wishart Elementary. Among the concerns raised by the neighbors were privacy, density, traffic, visitor parking, impacts to the trees in the adjacent Madrona Creek, strategies for snow removal, park dedication, location of a potential playground, and construction traffic and dust control. As I've said, we followed the principles of site adaptive planning that include a natural assets inventory, protecting habitat areas, incorporating existing natural features, maintaining tree buffers, minimizing ecosystem disturbance, and maintaining water flow pathways. This is the history that I just talked about, so we'll zoom through that. Excuse me for that. So here we go. So the various factors that impact the development. Our project biologist identified the streamside protection and enhancement area, referred to as a SPIA, as 10 meters from Madrona Creek. It is shown there on this slide. Within the SPIA zone, no disturbance is to take place to the natural environment, period. Our project biologist also identified the 30-meter riparian assessment area adjacent to Madrona Creek. The RAA for short is the zone in which the investigation and determination of the SPIA zone width takes place. Then our project arborist mapped out the vegetation line that was suitable for retention, and that's shown in orange, pretty much all around the perimeter of the development. As a result, the total protected area was 15,500 square meters. In the subsequent time, we've added 2 access spaces to the city of Colwood, so the city staff with rights of ways, et cetera, would be able to access the protected space at any time to ensure it was being maintained as required. This next slide is an excerpt from the Parks and Trails Master Plan. We have added our site in yellow right there. You can see the plan is targeted establishment of a neighborhood connector trail, as well as a community trail, generally referred to as the Beach to Mountain Trail. We have reviewed the aspirational aspects of the master plan with our clients and have the following comments. The approximate Beach to Mountain Trail is shown with a yellow dashed line. You can see sort of on the left of the screen and across the top. Concerns with it include the crossing of Madrona Creek. An associated creekside trail would land inside the SPIA. The SPIA zone, as stated already, is supposed to be free of any disturbance. Access to the streamside trail will be difficult for maintenance equipment. The steep grades down to Madrona Creek and the creekside trail beyond the SPIA zone are very steep and will make for difficult slopeside construction. Future pedestrian connectivity to the west of the site will be provided by either adjacent to Latoria Road or Byzantine Way. Trail connectivity exists through Pondside Park from Latoria Creek to Propeller Place, as you can see in the blue. And finally, our clients feel that the connectivity already provided by sidewalk and is referenced in the planner's report, in the staff report during phase 1 of the development, is shown on the blue dashed line of this slide, satisfies the connectivity requirements of the site. It's pretty much what the what the staff report said, at least for the location of it. Here's the beach to mountain trail network. We've talked about the creek crossing. We've talked about construction access, steep topography. There's the existing connection to tie on to go land to the west. And there's the existing pondside trail that we mentioned. And there's the existing connection possibilities that's already in existence in phase 1. Again, from the master plan, this slide excerpt shows desirable neighborhood park locations to service the existing neighborhood. There's our site, and you'll note that it's almost directly at area 6. So, tot lot locations. In recent weeks, we've been in discussions with the city to address the desire for a neighborhood park as per the Parks Master Plan. At first, we were very hesitant to provide a park with the new development plan, as the development is private strata site, and a public playground within a private strata site would cause potential liability issues. However, we've come up with these 2 potential options for a tot lot. They're just suggestions, and they front on public roads, so they're accessible and they could be owned by the city. They're suggestions. They're suggestions only at this point. Option 1, 10 meters by 15 meters. Some of that includes the existing road allowances there already. Yes, there'd be some blasting to level it, but you know, we know blasting is something that can and is done. And the second option is a smaller one near the site entrance. Amenity contributions. The proposed development amenity contributions will be as follows. The park's development cost charges will be $2,455.67 per unit, so about $110,000. The community amenity contributions now are $7,500 per unit, which will be $330,000. It's our client's contention that the $440,000 collected in DCCs and community amenity contributions be utilized to fund whatever playground equipment or parks improvements are proposed on the land to be dedicated by our client. Now, to summarize, originally, remember, this phase of the project was supposed to be 27 lots spread throughout the site. With suites, those 27 lots could have amounted to 57 units of housing back in the day. Now, with Bill 44 in the wind, those 27 lots could result in even more units of housing. At present, with the current proposal, we're looking at 44 units of townhousing. That's it. You may not like the 44 units compared to the 27, but 44 townhouse units is 44 townhouse units. That's it. We're keeping the townhouse units within the already disturbed area of the site, so we're preserving the natural area around it. The total site area is 2.88 hectares, so we're generating 44 units from 2.88 hectares. This amounts to 15 units per hectare. For comparison, 551 Byzantine Place is actually 18 units per hectare, and Propeller Place is 22 units per hectare. So yes, people suggest that our site is too dense, but our site is dense because we've clustered it to stay out of the existing natural areas that we believe the society values in this state. The original project was proposed and covenanted for 8,500 square meters of parkland. This project proposes 15,500 square meters of open space. It's been suggested that the 15,500 square meters of open space be turned over to Colwood as park. My clients have no objection to this, but our understanding is that the city of Colwood does not want this area for park. If we're mistaken, please let us know. The statement in the staff recommendation, the staff report, was that the 15,500 square meters of open space is allowed in exchange for not dedicating 8,500 square meters of parkland. That kind of gives us the wrong impression. The 15,500 square meters was not sort of part of a bargain or anything. It was just that was the area of the sensitive ecosystems. That's what we ended up saving. It isn't like there was a bargain struck at any point in that. That's just what it was. If the city hypothetically were to take the open space as a park, they could create access points to Olympic View, Propeller Place, or wherever they wanted to within the park. Would solve the issues of my clients being asked to provide public access through private property for a future trail connection to Olympic View, and it would all be Colwood Park. So my clients have offered 2 potential locations for neighborhood tot lots. The choice is really up to the city. Take the open space as park, or leave the open space as private open space, and take one of the 2 proposed areas as a tot lot. We should also talk about fees. Under the original CD8 zone project, the amenity contribution was $2,500 per lot. So 27 lots would collect $67,500 in amenity fees. My understanding is that in 2017, there were no parks development cost charges. So you had $67,500. Now, as on this slide, we're talking about $440,000 in parks DCCs and community amenity charges. So you could be getting 15,500 square meters of park instead of 8,500 square meters of parkland. It's almost double the original commitment, and you're getting over $370,000 in additional parks DCC and community amenity fees than you would have had this thing proceeded as originally planned. My client is respectfully suggesting that if you took the 15,500 square meters as park dedication, surely the $370,000 in additional fees would go a long ways towards building whatever trails you wanted within it. Finally, it needs to be understood that for all the concerns generated by this project, it is in conformance to the official community plan. And it is in accordance with some of the Bill 44 provincial increased density criteria, regardless of what my personal opinions are on that or whatever that is. It meets what the province is telling us to do. So that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions that you may have. And thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, Mike. I just have some comments first to start off with. I don't normally speak first, but I just want to reiterate that I guess with any subdivision proposal, environmental concerns should always be considered. And while climate change may be new, 2017, it certainly wasn't new then. It's not a new concept. It's always there. So, and it's important to note that your clients agreed to the covenant originally. They signed off on it. It states what it states. And that this situation that we're in right now is because of a townhouse proposal. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this discussion around where a park should be or the trails and all this sort of thing, because it wouldn't be a legal issue with strata per se. Yeah, so I just wanted to point those things out. And I think it's common knowledge that if you don't develop when you purchase the property, or if you wait as many years as this has been, of course the costs are going to increase. That's just common knowledge. So like I sympathize with some of these things. The same with the cost charges, the DCCs. I mean, they are what they are. That's what it costs. That's what the city has said it costs. And I'll just be honest that if you leave it any longer, in the next year or so, the DCC charges from the water DCC proposal for the $2 billion water plan is going to hit developers as well. So while it's not exactly friendly, that is unfortunately the way it is. Did anybody have any questions? Like to, oh. Okay, go ahead.
I'm curious if your client has a proposed allotment for outdoor square footage for each of these townhouse units yet?
Not at this point. The plans aren't that far along.
I imagine it'll be quite a bit smaller than what the original single family.
You won't have
square
single
footage would
family
be, right?
houses with yards on them, that's for sure. I suspect that the original development would be somewhat tone deaf if we were to go ahead with it in this day and age with environmental protection and everything that's on it, though.
I'm thinking lots of things and I probably have lots of comments, but at the moment I'm stuck on the fundamental fact that a covenant was signed, the CD8 development plan, which includes 8,500 square meters of park. And I think I've gone through things very thoroughly, but I've never really seen a discussion of where that was planned to be. It seems to have got lost in the noise and seems to be the last priority. It's like now we're trying to play catch up and say, well, it was meant to be a park, but actually it's not going to be. And as I read it, the park was to include a playground. It was more than a playground. And now not only do we only have a playground, we have what we're calling a tot playground, which is almost the size of a vegetable patch.
This page is the last page of the original covenant. And that indicates the previous phase 2 lot layout, and the areas in black were to be park. And that's where the 8,500 comes from. And so the playground area was to be, sorry, people behind me, but along the midpoint up on the east side of the site was to be the playground area. The area that's in black there generally is part of the open space that we're preserving. It's just not park at this present time. Yeah, when you talk about the playground, that's for sure. That's a point, but it's not like the area is going away. The area is being expanded. It's just.
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing what you're telling me. Was there an 8,500 square meters?
Black area
There.
on that plan, which is the last page of the covenant document in Schedule A. There you go. I think you've got it there, do you? Maybe not. Anyways, yeah. So
that, yeah.
that was to be dedicated as park. Yeah, there you go. And so that area is pretty much all contained. I would say all of it. I'm not 100% sure, but it's basically the area that's already covered by the open space with the current proposal. Only the current proposal protects more of it because of the lens that we're looking at it now through with the site adaptive planning. I wish I could. Do you guys have access? It isn't it might be to one of the letters. Yeah, I think it was. I think the first one or the second one, I think, had it. Yeah. There you go. That's it.
Right.
But the areas in black were to be park. And the area in black on the right-hand side, partway up, was the area where the tot lot, where the park was to be, the playground. Now, I don't think the city planning department or parks department would be in favor of us building this today because of the environmental issues that have since been identified. So it's great to say here's what we're planning to do in 2017 or earlier, but I don't think it respects the environment as we look at it today with site adaptive planning as much as the current layout does. That helps a bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, hi.
We're getting there. Does that sort of clarify?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about the backyards for the townhomes. You're following up with what Chris was saying. Your plan shows the protected areas coming right up to the building so
Yeah.
that there would be no backyard for the
Right.
townhouses.
At this
that
point,
correct?
we would, yeah, as we got into the detailed planning of the layout, we would better identify areas where people could recreate, et cetera. But generally, no, we're not going into those protected areas because they're protected areas.
Okay. So that is a hard line.
We could do decks, yeah.
So that is a
Yes.
hard.
It's a hard line as per se adaptive planning, yeah.
Okay. I was wondering if we should talk like about these staff recommendations kind of one by one and cover those because it's quite complicated.
Yeah, sure. Maybe I'll just let Kimberly and then we can go through them.
Yeah, my concern also is the point that Kim made about a covenant and it being signed and protected and basically that was what was agreed upon. That's what all of the residents in the current phase 1 were bought their properties with the understanding of. And I feel like that not following through on what was put in the plan originally is deceiving those current residents. Because that's what they, were bought into and were led to believe.
I understand what you're saying. And here lies the nub of the issue, as I said at the start, where we've got what people moved in and expected to happen. Now with site adaptive planning, we're being moved away from that. My question, not to be cheeky, but would be, are you sure you really want this version of the layout built? Because I don't think you do. But that's what the neighborhood's expecting because that's what they bought into. But I don't think the layout that was proposed in 2017 is as respectful to the amenities that are there, to the features that are there as the current one. But by all means, I mean, we could go ahead tomorrow and build this out, but I don't think that's,
Well, I don't,
we'd have the planning department and the parks department pretty unhappy with us.
I don't know how, I mean, I certainly see where all of your townhouses are. And I also see where space could be, townhouses could be taken away and a park could be put in there. So I don't think the only solution is to go back to, your original single family. I think there is changes that can be done
Yeah.
in terms of to follow through and, the commitment and the covenant.
Undoubtedly, but the covenant was written around this layout. And I'm saying, I think, maybe, I hope we all agree that this layout is something that we want to move away from. Wherever we get to, whether it's a fee simple single family layout or townhouses or whatever, I don't think this layout that the covenant is written around is something that we as a city, as a society really want to see happen today. We want to do something else. And once you do that, you've disassociated yourself from the covenant. It's not like we're walking away from the covenant saying we want to ignore this covenant. It's more like, well, we think that there's a better way to do this, whether it's townhousing, whether it's single family, whatever it ends up being. But whatever we come up with, I think we'll need the covenant to be rewritten around whatever it is we come up with, because this covenant is written around a subdivision that I don't think society would support today.
Mike, can you expand on that? Like, I'm just looking, like 8,500 meters is certainly something.
Yeah.
And we're protecting a lot with that. So, I mean, to increase it by 7,000 more is nice and all, but 8,500 is certainly quite a bit. So are you speaking in terms of people purchasing homes versus townhomes and that sort of thing? Or like, in what, are you just speaking of the land in general?
I'm speaking in terms of the areas that were identified by the professionals, the vegetation, retention area. We could, with the 8,500 square meters shown here, the 10-meter SPIA would be preserved and respected, so that would be compatible. But we're going through these other areas that were natural vegetation, and in later times people have said they want to retain it. But yeah, we could push into the forest and build step houses out over the edge, and it could be in a broad sense, it'd be quite unique houses. But I'm not sure that the Parks Department, the Planning Department want to see us going into that forested area. If I'm wrong, that's, that's fine, and I think that's what we're struggling for, is we're trying to find that situation that, I'm not trying to say you have to do this, or you have to do that. I'm just saying we've all got this problem that we've got to deal with, because I don't think what we had in 2017 is something we really want to do now. We have to figure out what we're going to do that is feasible. We can get on with it, get the thing done, and also not alienate the rest of the neighborhood. I mean, our clients' previous customers.
Being that the townhome development would be strata, would the public have access to enter the strata?
Not unless there is a right of way given. And at this point, my clients are saying they prefer not to have public individuals wandering through private property. Well,
then I think the conversation is mute at that point then, because there's supposed to be trails provided throughout the subdivision. How is that going to be incorporated?
It wouldn't be provided if sorry, you're welcome to interrupt.
To that point, the drawing.
Can you,
Sorry, I've got a handicap, so I can just stand up.
He had knee surgery.
Just an promise.
Oh.
That's acceptable. If you bring up the plan that you had up before, it shows the two private entrances on private land going into the park.
those who, okay,
That's
so
very clear.
can we open up the slideshow again? Okay, so. Okay, sure. Okay. Back home and overseas, if only you knew. Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, it is currently 4:41 in the morning, and we have somebody watching from Croatia. That's neither here nor there. Where was it? There you go. Yeah, so on the scenario that it's protected open space, private property not owned by Colwood, there'd be covenants put on the property to maintain it. Burden on the Strata Corporation, that they'd have to make sure that, any hazard trees are taken down, stuff like that. But of course, you want to make sure that the strata is following the terms of the covenant. So we discussed providing access to the city to check it out if they want. And so this slide showed city access to protected open space at 2 locations that would allow a crew from parks to go in and confirm it. This would work well also if the protected open space were park, but that again is the part of the nub of the issue, that while initially, like, we're not trying to get away from dedicating 8,500 square meters of park. We're offering to dedicate up to 15,500, but my understanding is the city doesn't want it. So we're not trying to get away with anything. We're trying to give you almost double, but you don't want it. You can have it. Not trying to be difficult.
Judy, go ahead.
Yeah. I, for one, I'm very happy to see this amount of space protected. So I think that's wonderful. I would like to see the city take it as well, but I know there's issues with that. And but the neighborhood was expecting a park, not a protected space where they can't go. And I do feel like there are places, maybe that hasn't been explored enough, because there are options for providing that, possibly even within that protected space in the northeast corner of the lot. That is protected space, but I know it's very degraded space right now. So that's one option possibly.
Behind block 1?
Behind block 1, yes.
Yeah, okay.
That possibly, of the options that were presented by the developer, I would opt for the larger one. But I think there are other options that could be looked at. The townhouses could possibly be rearranged so that the so that the block just behind the two houses,
Yeah,
that those could be moved somewhere else, and some of that could be used as parkland without giving up density. And that would be, I know some of the residents have expressed that that would make a wonderful view area. So that's a possibility. I think there are possibilities that maybe haven't been explored.
the, yeah, those 4 units up on top would create a viewpoint. No other values because it's blasted rock, it's moonscape up there.
They're all,
The
yeah,
idea of coming behind block 1, if we could make that somehow create a panhandle access to a city-owned little park right in that area, you know, maybe that's the compromise. As I say, I don't believe the developers have any objection to dedicating some or all of it as park. I'm not seeing any violent head shaking. So, you know, maybe that's the solution. We stick it in there.
it's an idea,
Yeah.
among others. So but I am very happy to see the dedication of the 15,000 square meters. And I would like to see more protection on that space than in addition to the 219, section 219 dedication, the covenant. And I would really encourage the developer to maybe covenant with somebody like Habitat Acquisition Trust or the Land Conservancy to provide extra expertise and help in maintaining that area. And to keep it from being degraded over time, which can happen, you know, if it's just left.
Yeah, I understand. That would probably, I'm thinking out loud, that would have to be something that the eventual Strata Corporation would have to have an ongoing commitment, but I'm sure that could be written into a covenant that, you know, they have to engage with, you know,
That I think
such an entity.
that would be great, I think.
You know.
Yeah. If that could be written in. You were going to speak. I was going to ask you a question later, Gord, about the problems of having city-owned park within a strata. That happens, doesn't it? Or city-owned or city-maintained?
It does happen, yes. The city doesn't have much. We do actually have 2 stratas that have, as part of their agreements, they have small playgrounds within the stratas. They are not monitored or maintained by the city, though there are public little public playgrounds. So I mean, there are definitely challenges with that, but it is done.
Yeah, so I agree. Seeing all that protected space is a good thing. I would like to see the viewpoint and also the connection to the trail to Olympic View. And I know you're talking about the connecting over the creek, the Madrona Creek not being possible, but down further, and my sense of direction here is in terms of
Just tell me left or
behind
right.
blocks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like if you go off to that way, you would then hit Olympic View
Yeah, okay.
trail.
Yeah.
And a connection to that trail, I think, is very important. And I think a trail, rather than going through the neighborhood and through the sidewalks, is important too. It keeps it more of the more natural and the more, being able to go through a forested trail rather than through a neighborhood and, past, hopefully this trail, this beach to mountain trail eventually is, a really nice connection around to all the different parks. But that Olympic View Trail goes behind I've been on that trail. I know where it could potentially connect through and still maintain sensitive areas. If the trail was just a dedicated trail, what it would prevent is, people trampling through all over the place without having a specific path to go on, but would have a specific trail to connect them to the Olympic View Trail, because they are going to want to get to that. And that is going to be one of the concerns, is that there always are people trying to make their own way through. And if a trail is created at the onset, I think that is an important piece that was talked about as well.
Yeah, you could, we're kind of going back and forth a little bit with yes, sir. You sure can.
We've had, this is a really good point. We had this discussion with parks in one of our meetings. So where you see the red line going in, where it says city access to protected area, that is not strata. That would be public property. That would give you access into the protected area where you could have trails, and that actually does connect up to Olympic View.
Mm-hmm.
When we first did this subdivision, we wanted access out of onto the Olympic View eventually in the future for roads, and we were told we couldn't do that because all of that was going to be dedicated as park at Olympic View. So hence we have what we have, right? But it's a natural. Also, if you're talking about a lookout, you can take the trail right over, and if you see the area marked park, which is part of the Propeller Place area on that diagram, that's a really high point.
Yes.
And it looks back towards the Olympics in the ocean. It's absolutely fabulous. Before I had my physical operations, I walked this property for 15 years. I know every corner of it. Problem is I can't do it anymore. And that's a great location, what you said. And that's part of our concept that we talked with Westbrook about, was we couldn't understand why the city and the parks, you can have all that land as park. The city can own it, and the amenity funds are there. You can use it now, or you can develop it later with trails, designate it so people stay on the trails. It's a huge asset. And it's way better than what we originally had proposed. But you could also, if there is, people dyed in the wool that want a park with swings and slides and everything else, which, by the way, will bring more traffic into the neighborhood, which was something that a lot of people were concerned about, but that's what it will do. It won't just be for the neighborhood. That park could go right up behind Block 2. There's quite a good area in there. And it would be a trail in, and there would be your park in the middle of the woods. So there's lots of options there. But the thing that we're getting bogged down with right now is that we're in front of the Parks Committee. We've been with the Parks Department. We can't seem to get a discussion and a consensus with everybody in the parks and in the Parks Committee to make proper use of what this land has to offer. And it's holding up the development. The alternative is we go back to the original layout. We've already had our lots. We have 27 lots remaining. We're already zoned for that. And our 27 lots will fit in
25.
to where those townhomes are. And so we just submit our subdivision application, which is where this all started. 2 years ago, we submitted it, and the planner, approving officer at the time, said, would you consider doing townhomes? I'd much rather see townhomes in that area. And we said, well, yeah, we would have to talk to Westbrook and see if it's doable and what we have to go through. But if we do it, We don't want to be doing this 2 years from now. We want it done in a year and let's get it done and do it. And we were encouraged to do that. And we met every one of the OCP requirements. We have met them all and exceeded them. And here we sit, trying to figure out what to do with the parkland. And your suggestion of the trails is just absolutely excellent. Because that's for our kids growing up, they're gonna, that's a lifetime. They're gonna do it when they're 4 years old, and they're still gonna do it when they're 14, and they're still gonna do it when they're 30. Tot lots, I mean, they're fun, but they have attention span of about 2 years. And on-site 5 or 10 minutes, right? So that's, I really think that we can do that. But the city needs to take it as their land and then work forward with the amenity funds.
Gord?
Yeah, Gord, could you speak to that? Could I also ask Mike just one question? This phase 2 is down to 25 single family homes, if that was the case, right? Not 27. 2 of them have already been built, have they not?
I have to check the arithmetic on that. I know what you're saying. We went into this thinking that there was 27 to go. Those 2 that got built, I'm not sure if they were in the original group of.
They're in phase 2.
Okay, so we're talking 25 now then, not 27?
That's right.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
I've been focused on the townhouse units, so I'm
Yeah.
foggy in that.
Do you, sir? Yeah, I can answer just a couple of the questions that have come up with a section 219 covenant compared to the city taking on it as parkland. So when we get developments like this, and you can see the triangle park off of Propeller was dedicated as park, no access anywhere, unusable land, part of an agreement, it gets dedicated as park. And it's happened many, many times. So what we do is we look at this area and it needs to be protected. There's sensitive ecosystems there. There's canopy there that needs to be protected. Building a trail through what is now about the 15,000 meters squared. You can't build any trails on the Madrona Creek area. We know that. The grades on the other area are challenging enough. Building trails, to build trails, you have to disturb the land. It holds more value as a protected area. If you look at, the original, layout, the park was within the development area at the road or the playground. I'm sorry, there's a lot of talk of playground and park. The playground was there, accessible. As say the Parks Department of the day, I was not here at that time. We would look at that same idea. We would have asked for a covenant. Now we would have asked for a covenant on the Madrona Creek area, a covenant on the one section, and then where we knew we could make a connection to Olympic View, we would have taken that on as park, because that's where the connection could be made. And as well, we were saying that southeast connection, we've walked it. We could do a trail through there that connects to potentially the Olympic View area. But the rest of it, there's a lot of grades there. So, we look at this and we say, okay, well, we need the protection, but is it actually usable as a park? So with a 219 covenant, we get the protection and it's a protected area that we don't have a lot of trails through. It's the same as Havenwood, where we have areas we don't want to put trails through and that sort of thing as we protect that area. That's how we look at it. It's not that we don't want park. If it's an area that is usable as park, then we would take it on as park. And these are just recommendations from this department to say that protection and canopy protection and ecosystem protection makes sense, then let's protect it with a 219 covenant. If park makes sense, where we have access, we have trail building abilities, we have, we can make trails and viewpoints without much in the way of disturbance of protected areas, then that makes sense that we would take that on as park. So just a little bit of clarification on why, we look at that and say, this needs to be a protected area that is not as usable as park as it is a covenant. But, you know, if committee was to recommend to council that it should all be taken on as park, we would be happy to take it on as park. It would just mean a whole different set of challenges for us as the department.
Okay, thanks. Oh, go ahead.
You may want to come back here, Gord, I don't know, but I hear what you're saying. What if we, you know, we've talked about the access in where the red dash line is towards the bottom middle of the page. We talked about it doing a playground in there somewhere with the panhandle access. What if we did delineate a zone that would just be a trail and we put some split rail fencing to keep the people out of the rest of it, just to provide that connection through? And you could create a walkway from Elevation Point Terrace down through that red dashed area through your corridor that you would accept as a trail, and this everything else was habitat retention zone. I'm just wondering if that's
You're suggesting the developer build a trail through there if we take it on as park?
the developer will arm wrestle you over that point, and that's a further discussion or for this committee to consider. But I'm speaking in terms of to get where, you know, the desired point of having that connection, not having the public wandering through a townhouse site, get the playground with the playground equipment, preserve the natural areas. If that's something that we could see working, then maybe we could talk about how it gets paid for. And I'm gonna get a shoe thrown in the back of my head any minute.
You know, if a trail, if a trail works through that area and that we get that connection in the southeast corner, I agree that would be usable park space. You know, walking the site myself, I think trails through that area would be very challenging, as challenging as they would be, you know, through the Madrona Creek area. And that's why we looked at it as a covenant instead of a park. But, you know, anything is possible. You know, the committee's here to make recommendations to council, and, you know, staff are happy to look at all recommendations coming from the committee and council.
I think the more that we could suggest or whatever could potentially negatively impact the current residents, just with having a strata next to the single family homes and just I mean, I think people know what stratas are like. They can sometimes have some crazy rules that come about, right? So that's it's just a concern about the negative impact of that. Parking, it could be anything. And then to have people kind of trailing around behind your backyards, or I don't know. I think maybe we should go through the recommendation that you have, Gord, and go from there maybe. So
There's someone in the public who wants to speak.
I think so the first, like that a playground be provided within the property of 517 Latoria Road as per the existing development agreement. Yeah, that's just, we're breaking it up one by one. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering if there's purposely no other parameters around that part of the recommendation in terms of minimum size or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, the property is limited with space, and depending on, you know, where they want to put the park and how much the, you know, land is going to be given up for a playground, sorry. You know, the playground, the option 2 playground is very similar in size, maybe even a little bit bigger than the Coleman Park, which is not a really good, or not, I shouldn't say not a good, all our parks are good. A very small playground. And then we were able to incorporate into that playground a small native plant garden as well. I mean, so there's, you know, there's options. The option that what the Parks and Rec master plan, you know, speaks to is what staff looks at and says, you know, this is what the plan is calling for. You know, it was part of the original agreement, so a playground should be there. But, you know, that's a recommendation off of, you know, guiding documents that we have as the Parks and Rec master plan. Parameters around that, I mean, a bigger, smaller, maybe not a playground. I think it's been suggested it's maybe a public meeting space, you know, picnic table, a shelter, you know, something like that, you know, that it could be considered as well.
I'm not super familiar with the area. Do you know how far like in walking distance or walking time, how far the nearest playground is?
So it would be, depending on the connections that you have there, you would be walking to, you know, when Quarry Park's done, phase 1 Quarry Park, that would be your closest playground. If you were to walk it on the sidewalk, 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, when it's built, it'll meet that 15-minute window that we talk about in the plan as being our goal for walkability.
What? Yes, it would. Yeah.
So maybe if we could, I'll just let these guys. Go ahead. Oh, it's.
Yeah, I'd just like to explore some options on that. I've heard from some of the residents the wish for, I think you would call it like a community space, a gathering space. And having been there, I would really like to speak to the fact that this is an amazing opportunity, probably the last opportunity in Colwood to preserve a view site. And if we can somehow roll those ideas together so that, you know, we're not just putting a little top playground in a sort of dark corner, but actually preserving some land for, we can call it a park. We could have some play features there, but it gives opportunity to enjoy the vistas from there. Because really, once that's gone, that's gone. And Colwood doesn't have much left in terms of use spaces.
Absolutely. You know, a playground could be many different things, really, when you look at like nature play, you know, that has a lot of seating and it's not really a traditional playground in that sense, but you know, it could be more like a meeting space where, you know, kids can play on nature play logs or boulders or rocks or that sort of thing, but and still have that space where, you know, you can actually meet and sit and have a community space. So yeah, I mean, playgrounds could be many different.
But I think there needs to be a discussion then as to where that would be within the development, because as I said, it's a difference between a dark corner and a
well, and
height of land.
as the developer mentioned in their presentation, those were suggestions. The 2 spaces were suggestions.
I didn't like what the, I mean, I didn't dislike it, but I thought it was pretty strong that the residents called one of them deceptive and the other one insulting. And I think it's pretty hard to
I think
unhear that.
Absolutely. And I hear what you're saying. And I think there was a little bit of misconception with park and playground. Like those are the playground spaces, but the larger protected area was the park space, which is still being offered. And those were the smaller playground areas. So that open space, that, you know, urban forest space is still there. And those 2 smaller pockets were like for a playground, not to take the place of a park or open space.
Sorry, just to clarify the point, when you talk about it still being offered, you're talking about the private open space, which we've just had the conversation about access. It doesn't sound like it's offering much to the residents.
Yeah, I mean, that's the section 219 space. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you're right on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like the nature park logs and, you know, boulders and making it more kind of assimilating it more into the environment around there rather than it being artificial play structures and things like that. The viewpoint, I think, is really important to try and set aside the space. And it looks like, I mean, we don't have that map back up there, but in that one corner where you do get a view out to the water and the, you know, the mountains in the distance and whatnot would be a good spot for it. And I don't know if that's I mean, what we're recommending or what we're putting forth as a motion doesn't suggest exactly where, but I wonder if that needs to be, we need to be a little bit more clarifying a little bit more where in the space.
No, I think you had the right, that was the right.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I mean, if you look at
Yeah.
the previous one, you can see the elevation challenges that we would have through there for trails.
Sure.
Had my 2 minutes plus one, so thank you very much. If the current street came up and did an S curve and went straight to the very back where the, I can't read what the block is, it could be block number 5, and that'd be a cul-de-sac, and there'd be single family homes on either side all the way down, you could still have a viewpoint where block number 6 is potentially. So there would be 20 homes on either side of the street, plus what you put in the cul-de-sac, plus the 2 brand new ones that were established last year, plus the one lot A. That would be your 25 homes. You could then also tie in the Olympic Trail on the backside. And as a trail builder for the province, I'd be more than happy to dedicate my time and expertise to building this trail. Thank you.
Thank you. But we aren't here tonight to debate townhouses versus homes. So we need to stick to this plan here and figure out if we want to park, where it needs to go. I think what I've heard is that they don't necessarily need a tot park with playground, plastic playground equipment. I think it's more so a gathering space with picnic tables, what have you. But I think the amount of space is not what's acceptable. And we haven't really defined that in the recommendation.
It's my understanding that you can make recommendations as well to council.
Oh, I know, I just. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I agree that there should be a playground or park that the staff has recommended. But do we have to decide the site today, or can that go back for more discussion?
You're being presented with 2 suggestions from the developer.
But they were suggestions.
Yes, so, I mean, that discussion can happen here with the developer, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay, so yes, we need to hash that through. Okay. Then let's.
What if we don't like either? Yeah, it's just really difficult to, like, the terrain up here is really different in different areas where, I mean, I've walked it around as well. I mean, I don't know if taking out single family home lot A provides a proper amount of space, or if it's even usable space for that. I don't know what I don't know, so. I think, yeah, maybe that an appropriate size playground be provided, playground/park. Within the property of 517 Latoria as per the existing development agreement. That would encompass a gathering area. Just it's an opportunity for like small group neighborhood gatherings.
I mean, staff could come back to this committee with options of what a space would, what a space would look like, what it would, the amount of space that you would need for a small gathering place slash nature park type idea?
I think that the issue and the problem that keeps coming up is that the townhouse development can't really have it within it just because of the constraints of a strata. And that's what's presenting the problem. I don't think finding park space would be an issue if it wasn't townhouses. And I'm not saying that I'm for one or the other. I'm just saying that that is what's causing the significant imbalance here. Yeah, so we could put that, I don't know, we could put that forward as a appropriate size playground park be provided within the property of 517 as per the existing development agreement that would encompass a gathering area. Let's see what that looks like. I don't. Oh, sorry, you guys.
Is there a chance that we could recommend that the city take on that whole 15,500 meter area as park, and whether that's natural, stays natural park, and then park a playground area is part of that, or in conjunction with the developer, like, so that land is kind of protected and owned by the city, and that way it's open to the public and there's not a problem within the strata. So like that the strata kind of contains itself within that red line border.
I'm sorry, I'm not well versed in Section 219 covenant, other than, the basics of what it entails. But I'm, if I understand correctly, you would want to take the 15,000 meters squared of as park is what, then the city would have to maintain that as park. And by maintaining it as park, we could assess it and try to make trails and that sort of thing. But it would be the same as Havenwood Park, without the covenant. And it would just be parkland. And the city would maintain that parkland. At the 219 covenant, the city does not maintain it, but it is protected.
Yeah, and I think that having it protected as a natural state park, but not as like stated as a park, is probably better because of the sensitivity and in this area, more so than having people going through it. And so it would be like a dedicated natural state covenant.
Well, it could also be something that HAT, gets, we get HAT involved to kind of place a covenant over that area.
Well, the covenant would be that of the strata that, so it would have to be an agreement between the strata and Habitat Acquisition Trust.
But if the city took it, like they were offering it, I'm like,
yeah, if the city took it, it would be parkland. It wouldn't be a covenant, is my understanding. Yeah, I mean, even if it was, land that was has sensitive ecosystem and we wanted to protect it, but if we were able to, build trails without doing too much in the way of, disturbance, and we didn't have the grade issues we have, then we would take. I would ask that for park, that area for park. I would take it on as a park. But because the challenges are there for us, and I'm not even sure what type of trails we could build through the whole section of that back section if we took it as park towards the southeast, towards Olympic View, which, if it was park, and we had that access and we were able to, build a trail to that lookout point and we were be able to build the trail for the connection, then we would take it on as park and I wouldn't have any objection to that. But the recommendation is that we take it on as the covenant because of those challenges. You know, staff can also look at, you know, the viability of trails through there. You know, it all comes with a cost.
We just had somebody offer to build those trails.
I'm not sure they offered, but
Well, my concern was the city not taking it is that the ad hoc trails will happen regardless. And to me, it seems like the degradation is more likely to happen with a section 219 than it would if it was city park. That's my feeling, but I have nothing to back that up.
Does anybody have their own motion that they'd like to put forward?
I'm just wondering if we can explore a little more this idea of the city taking it on. I mean, it was the first time I'd heard it tonight from the developer that the developer is prepared for it to be made park. And we've heard from Gord quite a lot about the ins and outs of that. But I'm not sure I'm fully cognizant of the situation. I mean, at face value, it seems like an incredible opportunity for the city to gain a 15,500 square meter park.
and I mean, that's a recommendation that this committee can make to council.
Can I ask a clarification on that? It's possible to have a park that is private, as in terms of access, or by making it a park, does that take away that?
It's public land.
It's public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, the ad hoc trails, I mean, there are some there, I think, already. They're going to happen Covenant Park. I think that, yeah, it's a tough one. But I mean, if the committee feels like it's that's something that they want to recommend to council, that it's an opportunity to have as a park, that's a recommendation you can make.
I'm just not sure I see it as an accessible park, and I think that we need to be cognizant that adding more parks to the city as well, like with them to be responsible for, is going to cost taxpayers more money as well. There's a lot involved where we could also just protect it. So
This would have a definitely a cost to the city to take on this park.
and I think we don't know what we don't know. I don't know if that could be a park. I mean, it could be a park, but like an accessible one, I don't think. Maybe let's go to the trail, down to the trail part, that a trail be provided at the southeast area of 517 Latoria for future neighborhood connection to Olympic View.
So is that, would that trail be through some of that land that we just, like, that's to me what I think we're wanting, is to have a trail through there that the public can access. The Olympic Trail, the beach to mountain can all come together.
Yeah, I can answer that. Is so that would be the southeast corner. We have walked that with the applicant. That's another one. It's, you know, the trail is doable, but it would not impact, it would impact a small section of that area. The grade works for a switchback style trail. there would need to be to access that trail and that connection, you would need a SRW, a right of way through the strata to access that park. It wouldn't be accessed through any of the other areas there.
So if that area was protected, you could still do that trail.
We would be able to do we would be able to do the connection trail in the southeast corner, yes. Yeah.
Okay. And that in exchange for not providing a trail connection through Madrona Bank riparian area, a trail connection from the existing Latoria Creek Trail to Pondside Trail be provided at the developer's expense to achieve the connectivity envisioned for the beach to mountain trail route network. So I think part of that trail is already there. It's just overgrown.
Pondside, yeah, that was put in there when the Pondside and the upper developments were in there. So the bones of that trail is there. There's still some stairs. The trail is there, and then the connection would have to be made to that trail, and then that trail could be made to connect it to elevation point. That would give a trail connection to Latoria Creek, Quarry Park, and then it would also, part of that would be sidewalk that would include the beach to mountain. So you would have the sidewalk included with that trail connection that would connect your beach to mountain trail, but would also add a trail connection through park to Latoria Creek and Quarry without using a sidewalk from elevation point and the development in that area there.
I think the developer would like to speak.
So, Gord, through the chair too, just so you realize, the mention of the trail connection through Madrona Park riparian area trail connection from the existing Latoria Creek Trail to Pondside be provided at the developer's expense. We would not agree to that. We feel that we are paying enough in park amenity funds, which is over 100 and I don't know what the number is, 100 and some odd thousand, plus the community amenity funds of 400. I think the total adds up to over 400,000. We couldn't agree to it because we don't know what the cost is. And I don't think anybody in this room would agree to do something without knowing what the cost is. And to get the cost costs money again, right? So we just can't, it's not our land. We're entering onto somebody else's property. I guess it's city property, is it parkland? So I think it's really a classic example where you use the amenity funds. That's why the amenity funds are put in to be able to deal with situations like this. We're prepared to give up all the parkland. I think the idea of the trail going back and connecting into Olympic View has a really strong merit. And I agree with Gord that yeah, the city's going to have a cost if they take this apart, but only if they start doing something. It can sit as protected parkland until things come along and there's funds available to do the trails, or people do volunteer work to create the trails. I've seen a lot of parks around the world, and you know, we talk about access. People build bridges across ravines. They you know, build walkways through swamps. You know, it's just a matter of the money. And I think Colwood's probably in the future going to have a fair bit of money. It's a well-run municipality. So the opportunity to have that land and keep it in Colwood's jurisdiction, I think, is better than having a covenant 219. We don't care either way. It's just, if I were looking forward, I think owning the land, the city owning the land, is a better option for the municipality. Because once you go the 219, there's no way back. It doesn't come out, right? You can always go 219 later to you know, to one of the environmental
with a cat.
yeah. So just a suggestion, but we wouldn't be in a position to agree to pay for that because we don't know what the cost is.
The Pondside Trail area though is within the development, right?
No, it's
Is it
Pondside
within
Trails.
phase one of the development?
It's there between Pondside, Propeller, between Pondside and Propeller, ends at Elevation and ends just at Latoria Creek.
But it's not unheard of for trails that go into different developments to be constructed by a development when a development goes in.
Offsite work, I don't think that's, I think that's doable. If you are you referring to the developer working within Latoria Creek Park to build a trail? As far as I know, that's doable.
Was going through this property to connect the Beach Mountain Trail always part of the bigger plan?
Well, a part of going through those trails was part of the Parks and Rec master plan as the Beach to Mountain Trail. Yeah, it was. But the original, like the Parks and Rec master plan shows it going through Madrona Creek, from that southeast corner, I believe, is, and connecting to, yeah, it connects up through Latoria Creek. It couldn't do a connection through from Latoria Creek at the development because there is a cliff that runs along there. You wouldn't be able to come up through there, but you would be able to go through, I think it connects Pondside, so it doesn't show a connection to Pondside, but it has Pondside to the development, to the southeast corner, down the back of the property, through Madrona Creek, down through into the other Strata Corporation property down there as well.
Okay, well, we have to move on this, make a decision. If we go back to the 8,500 meters and not the full 15, how does that affect the development?
I can't answer that question. Like, I mean, it has, if you look at the map, there were, you know, the areas in black were part of the 8,500. The rest of it would be private property, and it would be the owners of the property could do what they wish on those areas.
But is that a more potential to offer the park space that, like, I guess that would be the parkland that they would, with this, for to build the parks, the playgrounds, parks?
Yeah, there would be a fair amount of disturbance of the land to build anything, I believe.
And so I guess what I'm asking then is if we go back to the 8,500, they're still not going to be able to build the houses that was once thought on that area.
They're still going to be able to build?
They're not going to be able to.
Well, the original development agreement,
The original development plan of the 25 homes along there, they wouldn't be able to necessarily build on this sensitive land, or they could.
oh no, they could. That's there. It is recognized as, you know, a valuable, it's not, there's no riparian in that area. That was recognized through their studies that that's a valuable ecosystem. It's good. It should be retained as natural space, but there's nothing that says they can't build on it. The Madrona Bank, SPIA, and riparian area, they are restricted to where they can build there. On the other side, my understanding is they're not restricted if that was the original plan.
Okay. how do you guys want to do this? I tried that. Okay, so. Yeah. Sorry, the park access.
Is that not a problem, what we just heard from the developer? They won't do the, what is it, fourth bullet, the one about pond side? Because I understood that that was part of this package sort of thing where we were, I know we don't like the word trade, but effectively trading the Madrona Bank Trail, which I understand cannot happen, but as a compensation for that, for the Pondside Trail. And now we've heard that the developer isn't willing to do the Pondside Trail. Does that not change quite a lot?
I think that I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I think the compensation is the 15,500 meters. That's it
For that park, but in the original plan, there were for two trails, right?
Mhm.
And we're down to one, I guess, am I right? In terms of what the developer will offer.
I'm not exactly sure. I don't think the developer, and I don't want to, they can come up and answer
But
that question, but I don't think any trail connections are within the scope of the work that they would do.
But it's not a negotiation at this point. It's just what the Parks Committee wants to recommend.
Okay.
So how do you want to go through it, Chris? Okay, so okay. So the first bullet, like with that, a playground be provided within the property of 517 Latoria Road as per the existing development agreement. It's just really vague. It doesn't say where, it doesn't say how big, yeah, so we can leave it as is and it can get discussed at council, or we have an opportunity to make it what we want to make it.
I think that we update this to say that a playground or gathering space, and not lock it into it having to be a playground, be provided within the property. And maybe put a more reasonable minimal size to it. I mean, what is that? Option one is 150 square meters, which is like maybe my family getting together for a barbecue. And so maybe we double that size, and that can be our recommendation for council.
So that a playground or gathering space be provided within the property of our gathering space of 300 square meters.
That'll be parkland.
Yeah, I'm not sure about picking a number out of a hat. I sort of feel like maybe we want to define it as what we wanted to achieve, which would be a gathering space for maybe 20 people. I don't know, something like that. But I'm also, as I've said, keen on where this is and not to lose the opportunity to give residents an opportunity to access some of the view space. And I think that matters, because if this is really in a very unattractive place, then it's probably not going to achieve its goal.
Did you want to speak, Mike?
Thank you. I don't know if it helps, but if you worded it that it would be a playground or gathering point to be contained within the 15,500 square meter area, subject to the approval of the Parks Department, or the location feasible to the Parks Department, would that help? And then we abandon the idea of these tot lots altogether that I don't think anybody likes.
I mean, it makes. If this project was in isolation, it'd be a great project. It ticks us all the boxes, but it's from an environmental standpoint, with the way it is, it would be great. It's just that the existing covenant that's on it.
If you look at, if I may, through the chair, if you look at the 15,500 square meter area, where this would be some sort of a gathering space, a lookout, that sort of thing, where that would be accessible. I would hazard to put that in there for the 15,500 meter square area, just because we're not exactly sure where that could go and where it could be built. And it might still need a SRW to get there. There's a lot of variables there to where it would go. But like I say, it's a tough one. I think if you leave it within the property of 517 Latoria, that kind of gives you everywhere. If a space can be done within the natural area, it still is included. My understanding it would still be included in the 517 Latoria property. So it gives you kind of the ability to go anywhere that something makes sense.
So that a playground or gathering space be provided within the property of 517 Latoria Road as per the existing development agreement. Oh, sorry.
Could we say like a natural or nature-based playground? Like rather than having it be one of those tot lot things that isn't very.
A natural playground? I don't think we.
Through the chair, if you want it to be a nature-based playground, then I would say nature-based playground. Or if whatever it's, if it's going to be a playground gathering space, that sort of thing, playground does kind of, can be anything as far as plastic, metal. If you're looking more of a nature-based thing, it's probably a good idea to have that in there as a nature-based.
That a nature-based playground or gathering space be provided within the property of 517 Latoria Road as per the existing development agreement. Okay, the next one is that council directs staff to include with the amendments to the CDS zone a requirement to protect 15,500 meters squared of 517 Latoria Road through a section 219 natural state covenant in exchange for not requiring 8,500 meters squared of the CDS zone lands to be dedicated as parkland. So keeping it as a section 219 covenant in exchange. Or not dedicating it as parkland.
Well, sorry, I think I've talked too soon. I feel like I'm back to where I was, that while each of these bullet points, it's like you said, Kim, each of these bullet points in isolation makes sense in the context of the pre-existing covenant for phase one. I don't think we're addressing the concerns, because we're wiping out the 8,500 meter squared park And we have a little playground of undefined size and location. So it's not sitting terribly well with me.
How about a recommendation that the covenant as agreed upon originally is what needs to be abided by? The way it is.
That would mean back to the parkland as well, and we wouldn't get that, would we? Sorry, why did we not say more about the playground in terms of size and location? Sorry to go back, but the first bullet point. Is that not our opportunity to try and address some of the concerns?
It is.
Yeah, so, sorry, can we just scroll back up to the first bullet point? I feel we haven't said enough there about our hopes for that, speaking for me, in terms of size and location, to address what the residents felt they were promised in phase one, at least partially. So, can we use language that can be interpreted in a way that shows the meaning? We can't be too clear about size or so on, but of a meaningful size and location, maybe something like that, just to, because I want to get away from the top lot that was obviously not an acceptable suggestion. I'd like. I know we're going around in a circle, but I just feel what's up on the screen now is where we began and hasn't addressed. I'm in a vacuum because I'm not able to hear back from the neighbours, but I'm thinking that the neighbours want. Expect, not just want, but were promised. I think those are stronger words, something that we haven't delivered.
Sorry, go ahead, Desiree.
If I may suggest just a recommendation for revising the first sentence, maybe to address some of the concerns from the committee about size and location. It could be worded that a nature-based playground or gathering space area be provided like as accepted or approved by council. So that way council gets an opportunity to see this one more time and be shown different options from the developer to satisfy this requirement. Just as a suggestion.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good.
Would that be where we want to also include something about the, like an outlook or a viewpoint?
If you want it, include it, yeah.
Because I think that's something that the residents had expressed an interest in having.
So be provided, I don't know how to, that a nature-based playground or gathering space area, gathering outlook area, space be provided.
With an outlook or viewpoint or something like that.
Gathering space with an outlook or viewpoint, yeah.
I think that covers.
I like the second one, but and then we can come back to it though if you want. That a trail be provided to the southeast corner. I mean, we've already had someone offer to do it. So, I mean, it's the future, right?
Yeah.
I think we should just leave that.
If I may, through the chair, that to do that trail through the southeast as the covenant area means that there would have to be an SRW through so there would be that understanding that we would need a path from the road through the development to that corner lot or to that corner of trail.
But then only the people in the strata could use it.
If there wasn't an SRW through the strata, then that's would be pretty much the case. It would be a landlocked trail.
So we need to add that verbiage to this, that, or just know that that's what's required later. That a trail be
Within the report itself, it does speak to an SRW would be needed for that trail connection.
so that a trail be provided with SRW. Yeah, as per the report.
Would putting something about public access in there help at all?
Just, sorry, just at the end of this, as per an SRW with, as, with a SR, I don't know how to word that, Gord.
If I may, through the chair,
Through a statutory right away. A city statutory right away? Is it?
Public?
well, I think what you could say is that a trail be provided through the southeast area of 517 Latoria for public access to future neighborhood connections to Olympic View. Because it would be public access.
Yeah, so for public access for future neighborhood connection, yeah.
For Latoria.
Latoria, for public access.
For public.
For future neighborhood. Oh, for future public access. Oh. So for public access for future neighborhood. Where? And the poor Pondside trail will just continue to be overgrown. That in exchange for not providing a trail connection through Madrona Bank riparian area, a trail connection from the existing Latoria Creek Trail to Pondside Trail be provided at the developer's expense. To achieve the connectivity envisioned for the beach to mountain trail route network. Thoughts?
I know that the developer already said that they definitely wouldn't be honoring that. My thought is that we leave it as is and we just leave that up to the council and the developer to hash out.
It is overgrown. It's not like it's been maintained. There's no connection there, I know, but there is up the street. Like you can do it you can walk up the street to connect.
The Pondside Trail? The
Yeah,
existing trail? Yeah, it is, it's unmaintained at this point. I don't know if there was no connection through Latoria Creek. It's on our maintenance to go in and do some basic work to keep the bones good to it, but I don't know that we would reinstate it to, to the point where it would be if it was an active connection.
So that's city land, or is that owned by the Pondside?
No, that's public. It's a park. It's part of, it's off of Latoria Creek Park, Pondside Park. It was dedicated as park. So it's
Okay.
public, but there's no the access to Elevation Point would need to be connected, and then the access to Latoria Creek would be connected for it to be usable.
Would plan B for the beach to mountain trail be to just make improvements to Latoria and that be the connection to Latoria Creek Park if this weren't a go through?
through sidewalk. If there was no other if there was no other connection, that would be the only.
That would be the only way.
We've already done that. We already did our sidewalk. So I don't want to be rude through the chair. I think I need to point a couple of things out here to where this is going in. I thought the suggestion of the land going to the as park in natural state is a really good one. When you start trying to put right of ways on for a trail that you don't even know where the trail is going to be, it becomes how do you do it? How do you design that right away? How do you describe it to get registered on title? It would have to be at that point a blanket easement over that parcel of land. Whereas if the city owns the park, if the city takes ownership of the land that we're offering, you can do whatever you want with it whenever you want and do it the way you want. We are paying the amenity funds. You could put a motion in saying that those amenity funds have to be used for that particular area. And also the park fees have to be used in particular for that area. It's being collected from the development of that land. So it only makes sense that it should stay in that area in my mind. Anyways, the other thing that and this is where I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, but all of you guys have been at this for quite a long time. We've been at it with Gord for quite a long time, and we've been at this for 2 years now. When we were told initially by the planner and the proving officer that we would have this done in a year with the cooperation of Colwood, which doesn't really involve any of you guys, but it just didn't work. We couldn't get answers. Things didn't move forward. There was a lot of moving posts. And it was the city of Colwood's planner that suggested that we go for townhomes, not single family lots. We are currently zoned for single family lots. So without any more effort of any of us, Mike Wignall can submit our application for subdivision approval tomorrow. Well, he wouldn't do it that quick, but he could do it within a week because we have a lot layout that meets all the requirements of the OCP. So then we would build residential lots. We'd go by the covenant that's there, which everyone seems to think that which I agree. I don't think it's the best covenant in the world. I think what we're planning is way better for the property, but we can't continue to go around in circles, which is what's happening. And this has been on the table for 2 years now. We should have been having these meetings a year and a half ago. It didn't happen. We don't know why. So we put our application in for subdivision. Mike, I stand corrected. Mike pointed out to me, we have 25 residential lots and we move forward. However, that will fall under Bill 44. So we will go to a minimum of 3 units per lot and could go as high as 4. So now we have 100 units potential. Certainly, it would come to, 3 times 75 to 100 units of residential homes, which is exactly what the province wants to see. We don't agree with that. We think what we're planning is much, much better, but we can't continue to go in circles. It's just not working for us. And I don't think it's working for the neighborhood either. We're doing our best to try to listen to the neighborhood concerns. We've met all of them, and every time we meet them, they throw something else at us. And I understand that people are upset and using the covenant as a way to sort of slow this development down. That's the fact. And we're not prepared to continue to do that. We have our zoning. We were trying to be good citizens. We're trying to work with our planning, with your planners and your environmental people, but we can't continue. So if we can't get this done in a reasonable way, that we move forward, which I think you could do the amendments right now by taking the land as part, having the ability to set up the trails, use your amenity funds as they were intended. That's when you have them in place so that you can deal with these kinds of things. You can't continually come back to the developers, and because that adds on to the cost of housing. That's exactly what the province has said to us. We can't continue to do this because every dollar I have to pay out, I have to get back. In the public, the person that buys the house is the one that pays for it. We're trying to be a little bit more reasonable on that, but we can't continue to do it. So I'm just going to leave that with you. If we can't get through this tonight, our instruction to our professionals is to apply for our subdivision. And from what I'm hearing, all the local previous owners will be happy. And we'll build. Thank you.
So Gord, I know you're the parks person, but is this not a grandfathered? Would this apply to Bill 44, Desiree? Or
Thank you for the question. Yes, Bill 44 does apply to this lot. It is zoned for residential single family, so they would be permitted, I think, to do 25 single family homes with a garden suite and a ADU, or garden suite and a secondary suite. But they do have to meet requirements for parking and servicing and other things that aren't included or aren't considered by Bill 44. But if that's what they choose to do, it's something that staff would be considering.
thanks. I think we're all aware of what the cost of an ADU unit comes with, and a garden suite to add all that on with a single family home. I think that's just kind of a bully tactic. I mean, you can do it, you can build it, but I'm not sure they'll come. I think that we can continue to make the recommendations that we were going to, and then the developer can decide what they'd like to do. I guess we could take out that pond side trail. That one, just take it out. It's overgrown right now. It's in the back of people's homes. And just the last bullet was the playground and trail connections within the long-term conditions. Sorry, of rezoning for 517 Latoria Road, that they'll be registered in a section 219 covenant development agreement, which quite frankly, that the word covenant, I don't know why any of the residents there would trust that any word covenant after this has gone on, but that's the rest of the recommendation. Has everybody had a, yeah, oh.
Just clarification, Kim, are you suggesting we take that bullet out?
The one that's highlighted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
To be honest, I
agree. I don't think it's a deal breaker.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For council, yeah.
And we just leave the rest? Okay, anybody have anything else? Any other?
I would like to stress that any So, yeah, I would like to stress that any of these requirements should be done before any building happens or before the property is sold. Can that be, does that last sentence cover that? Which shall be registered prior to adoption of amending the bylaw. Does that mean that all of this would have to happen before building happens?
That would be my understanding. Yeah, this will go to council to, yeah.
Okay, so that's the motion. All those in favor of the motion? Sorry? Oh, sorry. I guess I read it. I didn't. Sorry, I need a mover of the motion, please. Okay, Chris. And are all those in favor? Not Chris. Oh, you are. Oh, you are. He's the mover. Okay. All in favor. Okay. I guess we're at adjournment. Can I get a motion for adjournment, please? Kimberly? Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.